The date, April 26, 1944. Above France, under a sky heavy with dread, a young flight officer, just 21, named Fred Mifflin, commands his Lancaster bomber. Tonight, he's one of over 200 aircraft piercing the darkness, aiming for vital German sites. But the enemy is waiting. Their radar anticipates every move. Suddenly, a deadly shadow emerges. A custom-built Messerschmitt Bf-110, armed with upward-firing cannons, slips beneath a vulnerable Lancaster and unleashes its attack. Inside Miff's cockpit, the crew witnesses a horrifying spectacle, a blinding flash, followed by the unmistakable silhouette of a bomber consumed by flames, painting the night sky with fire. The seven-man crew stares in disbelief as one of their own is shot out of the sky. Tonight, more Lancasters would meet the same grim fate. Closing in hot on the target, Miff's voice crackles over the intercom.
Strap in tight, boys. We're going in.
Behind him, flight engineer Norman Jackson is up in a flash, flipping his seat as the bomb aimer scrambles to his station. The Lancaster takes a brutal hit, the night exploding with flak as they close in on those German factories, each second a gamble against impossible odds. The plane convulses violently, and a shout blasts over the intercom.
We've taken a hit.
Flak explodes all around, tearing into the Lancaster's wing. But Miff's voice is a rock of calm.
Hold steady, boys. I've still got it. 60 seconds.
Flares on the ground, dropped by the Pathfinders, flood the target zone with light.
Target in sight. Bomb aimer. Take her away.
The bomb aimer locks his eyes on the target, and as the crosshairs drift over the flares, he slams the release.
Bombs away.
The payload is unleashed on the factory. Explosions erupt as the bombs find their mark. Miff wrestles back control of the Lancaster, turning her towards home. Now, all they crave is isolation in the dark. But at this altitude, German radar easily snags the large British bombers, and tonight they're directing a swarm of night fighters. FW-190s, also known as butcher birds, these ones are modified specifically for night hunting. Receiving instructions from the ground, an FW-190 pilot quickly locks onto the lumbering British plane in the moonlight. Tonight's perfect for a hunt. The Lancaster's got radar, but it's slung low, under its belly. Up high, the Focke-Wulf FW-190 is virtually undetectable. Inside the night fighter, the German pilot lines up his shot, the distant form of the Lancaster drifting into his sights in the clear moonlight.
Gotcha.
His finger hovers over the trigger, closing to within 50 meters, he unleashes hell. Cannons and machine guns erupt, and tracers streak toward the bomber's tail.
You're right.
I'm hit.
German 20mm shells tear through the tail, and tail gunner Norman Johnson is badly wounded.
Another one.
The Lancaster's turrets erupt in return fire, but the German pilot breaks off, climbing away into the darkness.
Keep your eyes open, boys. He's still out there.
The 190 reappears from 5 o'clock, unleashing a burst along the bomber's entire length, ripping through the fuselage and slamming into the right wing. With the tail gunner down, Miff knows they're in serious trouble if they want to make it out of this alive.
Hang on, men.
He throws the massive bomber into a spiraling dive, trying to shake the 190 with a wild corkscrew maneuver. Mifflin's a hell of a pilot, but the 190 is a superior machine. It can easily match the Lancaster's agility and speed. The 190 stays on their tail, firing across the aircraft. A shell explodes near the cockpit, and shrapnel riddles Norman Jackson's legs. He grit his teeth in pain, but then the cockpit lights up as flames erupt from the cannon holes in the wing, right next to the engine.
We're on fire.
The remaining turret gunner unloads everything he's got at the 190, but the German pilot breaks off again, disappearing into the night.
Bandit's gone. Not for long. Check on Johnson.
Jackson watches the fire spread rapidly, pouring out of the multiple cannon holes across the wing. If it burns too long, the wing will snap in half, or the fuel tank will blow sky high. Despite his injuries, he has a crazy idea.
Toft, Higgins, get over here.
Ignoring the shrapnel in his leg, Jackson tells the crew his insane plan.
I can go out there.
Where?
He plans to crawl out on the wing and put out the fire himself. All they have to do is hold onto his parachute, he tells them. The men are stunned, but Jackson's stone cold serious.
That's suicide.
Jackson knows the risks. He calmly prepares as he explains.
I might be able to put the fire out. If I do, you gotta pull me back in. If I don't, and I get blown off the wing, just feed out the parachute as best you can. What do you think, Miff?
Mifflin is in total shock. But Jackson's already shrugging off his wounds and unfurling his parachute. With no time to argue, the bomb aimer and navigator grab the parachute lines, and Jackson heads for the hatch.
Ready. Ready.
The hatch is ripped open, and freezing wind slams into the men. The deafening roar fills the bomber. Mifflin slows the plane as much as he dares, but they're still doing 180 miles an hour at 18,000 feet. Undeterred, Jackson slides out into the freezing wind. Back in the sky, Norman Jackson feels the wind slam into him, buffeting him relentlessly. Clutching an escape axe, he jams it into the plane's skin for support as he pulls himself completely out of the bomber, hanging on for dear life. The crew slowly feeds out the parachute as Jackson reaches for the wing, the fire lighting his way. With a massive effort, he makes it to the leading edge of the wing. He grabs the wing's edge and shuffles towards the fire, using his hand and the axe. Fueled by adrenaline, he gets right up to the flames. Using one hand, he pulls out the fire extinguisher as the burning heat of the steel sears through his glove. He shoves the extinguisher nozzle through the cannon hole and squeezes the handle. The wing fills with extinguisher powder, and amazingly, the flames start to die down.
He's doing it. It's working.
The heat burns his hands, but he keeps going, and miraculously, the flames recede until they're completely out. The flames are out. He can hardly believe it. He's going to make it home and see his family. Just hours before this mission, he learned that his wife had given birth to a son. but someone else spots the extinguished flames from above. The Focke-Wulf FW-190 dives again. The German pilot fires another burst, hitting Jackson's leg and right shoulder. He cries out in pain as the fuel tank beneath him cracks open. Fuel spills into the night, and a fireball erupts around him. He falls off, his body swinging in the airstream. Inside the plane, the crew feels his weight as the parachute lines tighten in their hands. The crew inside the Lancaster feel Jackson's weight as the parachute lines tense in their hands. They realize Jackson is gone, and they will not be able to get him back. They release the parachute, which is then sucked out into the night air and set alight by the fireball. The Lancaster lurches and rapidly loses altitude, and Mifflin gets the plane to a safer height and orders the crew to bail out. At the rear of the plane, one crew member is forced to abandon the critically wounded tail gunner. The crew jumps out into the night, and in the distance, they see their flaming Lancaster lose control. Mifflin makes the decision to crash land the plane to save the tail gunner, Norman Johnson, who is badly injured. Both men do not survive the crash. Incredibly, Jackson is still alive as a flaming parachute wheels and flaps in the night sky with him attached. He falls to the ground hard and bushes break his fall, but both of his ankles are broken from the impact. Jackson is in terrible pain, with badly burned hands, wounds on his legs, and a bullet in his shoulder. He crawls towards a farmhouse for medical attention, and is then taken prisoner and sent to a German prisoner of war camp. He makes a full recovery at the camp's hospital. The 5 survivors of the Lancaster stay in the camp until they are liberated in 1945. Jackson returns home and meets his son. He is awarded the Victoria Cross for his actions. Norman Cyril Jackson dies on March 26, 1994. Every story is a glimpse into history. Subscribe to FLYTOP and relive the most intense moments of war.